With Anthony Davis resigning with the Lakers to a 5-year $190 million deal, 2020 free agency has quickly died down. Many teams still looking to land some pieces. We're all focused on the season just a few weeks away, but a couple players who can still get a few minutes and make an impact if given the opportunity. How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. Here are 10 of the best 2020 NBA free agents still available as of December 6, 2020. Starting with Kyle Korver, thinking about retirement the last 2 years, now 39 years old, 17 seasons in the league. Amazing for somebody who's played 4 years in college. Averaged 6.7 points with the Bucks last season, 42% from deep, just below his career average. Play under 17 minutes a game, still deadly for a second unit if able to play for a few minutes stretch. Although being slow and can't move his feet anymore, Korver's a household name as one of the best 3-point shooters all time. Will have many opposing teams alert every time he comes to the game. Still no decision yet. Doesn't hurt to come back one more time. Taj Gibson. At least the Knicks got rid of some of their power forwards. The 35-year-old was let go shockingly. You would think Coach Thibodeau loves keeping his former players, being away from the Knicks and creating cap space. A role player who averaged over 6 and 4 in 16.5 minutes played. A team like the Clippers should sign him off the bench and bring toughness and energy. Still way better on defense than what Montrezl Harrell provided in the 2020 postseason. Gibson stays with the association getting slimmer. Ersan Ilyasova. The Bucks forced to waive him after the Phil Bogdanovich deal, got his $7 million contract off the books, might be able to still find a minimum deal. Listed at 33 years old, who knows his actual age? Ilyasova's been the same exact player the last 2 seasons, getting between 15 to 19 minutes, 6.5 points, over 4 rebounds. At 6'9", a solid 3-point shooter. His best 2 games last season, scored 18 points on 8 of 10 shooting, also a game shooting 7 of 8. Has to stroke some nights, far better production than what J.R. Smith would contribute these days, reaching double figures in nearly 1/3 of his games last season. I expect someone to pick him up very soon. Roberson, banged up and 2 hurt, finally returned for 7 games after missing over 2 years with surgery upon surgeries. Known as a ferocious, respectable defender who can't shoot for the sake of shooting. Just turned 29 years old. Sam Presti doesn't want him back. And moving on, unlikely Roberson will get another prominent role within the rotation. Being such a terrible shooter, I can see him being signed for a 10-day deal just so teams can see what he still has on D. Made second team all defense in 2017, his last full season, but still a good risk for the very minimum. Brandon Knight, just like Roberson, 29 years old, a very similar career path the last couple years with multiple serious injuries. Averaged nearly 20 points in 2016, fell off heavily after, put up just 7.3 points last season on 18 minutes off the bench, 25 games, not even close to a starter anymore. Hasn't played more than 60 games since the 2015 season. Knight should be in the prime of his career, but likely aged 5 years faster physically due to the damages on his body. Still can turn it up. Had 19 points in the win over the Suns February 28, followed by a 16, 18, and 13-point effort. The Clippers shockingly resigned the horrendous Reggie Jackson. I'd rather Knight over Reggie any day of the week. Ian Mahinmi, after finishing out his overpaid 4-year $64 million deal summer 2016, Mahinmi actually came off his best season of his 4-year deal. Averaged 7.4 points, 5.7 rebounds, 21 minutes of action for the Wizards. Started 35 of 38 games. Now 34 years old, one of the few players remaining from the 2011 Mavs title team. Didn't provide much for Washington besides collecting those paychecks. Only played a total 72 games last 2 seasons. If a starting center for another team gets hurt, Mahinmi might be called up. We all know for sure he'll never get anything more than a vet minimum. Anything more would be shocking. Dewayne Dedmon, shockingly signed by the Pistons before waiving him shortly after, having a guaranteed $13.3 million. 31 years old, played a combined 44 games with Sacramento and Atlanta last season, averaged just under 6 and 6 a block. A productive role player, doesn't mind getting physical. 2 teams that should consider him: the Denver Nuggets and backing up Jokic after losing Plumlee, or the Houston Rockets in case DeMarcus Cousins gets hurt again. Dedmon simply brings toughness in the interior. That 7'4" wingspan will at least cause some trouble to other teams. It's too bad the Kings overpaid him for 3 years, $33 million after lasting 34 games before demanding out back to his former team Atlanta. Dedmon played some of his best ball at the ATL in 2018 and 19, averaged between 10 to 11 points, 7.5 to 8 rebounds. On a bad team, if the 31-year-old can get back to that form, the big man can surprise a lot of people. Jeremy Lin, who hit rock bottom after winning a title with the Raptors in 2019, the Linsanity run will still be one of the craziest craziest basketball moments, that was nearly 9 years ago. 9 years later, the 32-year-old still has a lot of passion in getting another shot at the league. Spent a season with the Beijing Ducks in the CBA, regularly posts updates on his comeback with workouts. Rosters also filling up in China. Lin recently worked out with Steph Curry, did average 9.6 points, 3 assists during the 2019 season, still has the skill and talent, and better than some backup point guards right now, but because he's not a great outside shooter, more of a combo guard who's a driver, very difficult for vets with Lin's playstyle to sign with any team, with the point guard spot being the loaded position in the league, going through many ups and downs throughout his career. Lin hasn't been quite the same since his devastating injury with Brooklyn. The Ducks paid him $3 million annually. 10 years ago, Lin struggled to make a roster, bounced around the G League. 10 years later, looking to prove doubters wrong again. This season could be his very last chance to ever step foot in the National Basketball Association. Emmanuel Mudiay, from being one of the best high school prospects for his class to being labeled a bust, at this point he is who he is. Averaged 7.3 points for Utah in under 16 minutes, more of a scoring guard, not a facilitator, shot over 46% from the field, his highest last season. Of course, playing for Utah, put up half the points he did compared to the Knicks. Wasn't part of the Jazz rotation the last 4 playoff games when Conley came back. Mudiay did have a 20-point game back in January, very serviceable, shockingly still 24 years old. If worse guys in his class like Jahlil Okafor, Mario Hezonja, and Stanley Johnson still have contracts for 2021, there's no reason why Mudiay shouldn't have a deal. Lance Stephenson, who had talks with the Pacers before the pandemic, after spending time with China, last played with the 2019 Lakers, averaged 7 points, played for 7 different teams, the only franchise he should ever play for and remain for the rest of his career, the Indiana Pacers, where he started more than half his games with the team. Every other team comes off the bench more often than starts. Always were spectacular moments and highlights with Indy. After being one of the most improved players in 2014, ended up barely making an impact with Charlotte, was a mess with Minnesota, before ending up with Indy again. Still 30 years old, the Brooklyn native averaged nearly 27 and 8 in China, maybe signing with the Pacers for the 3rd time's a charm. Isaiah Thomas is an absolute travesty. IT still hasn't been signed, constantly tweeting, expressing how badly he wants to play, despite all those brutal injuries, being irrelevant for over 3 years now. Got a bad rap after getting blamed for the Cavs' struggles in 2018, didn't really get a chance to prove himself. His heart and passion for ball still bigger than his size. 31 years old, Thomas played 40 games with the Wizards in 2020, averaged over a dozen points in 23 minutes. The 2-time All-Star was part of that 3-team deal with the Clippers and Knicks, waived by LAC, a draw win for the Marcus Morris deal, an absolute double travesty of a decision, a failure of the Clippers nobody ever mentions. Thomas would have played with more heart than any of the Clippers in their 3-1 meltdown. The Clippers signed Reggie freaking Jackson after getting rid of IT, who's way less impactful as a backup point guard. What the heck was Lawrence Frank thinking there? Although IT's defense isn't good, still wouldn't have been any worse than Reggie Jackson. Are you kidding me? Thomas would have likely provided a spark off the bench if the Clippers were struggling to score. A certified bucket getter who sadly never get a max contract, the worst timing possible with the injuries. The former MVP candidate was passed up by a team who signed Reggie Jackson. Once again, an absolute unexcusable decision of a travesty for the Clippers. Shame on you. When IT finally does get signed, he'll make more of an impact for the rest of his NBA career than Reggie Jackson going forward. Mark my words. Other names include Wilson Chandler, Shabazz Napier, CJ Miles, Kyle O'Quinn, Cheikh Diallo, Derek Collison, Tim Frazier, Iman Shumpert, Alonzo Trier, Jamal Crawford, Michael Beasley, Yogi Ferrell, Frank Mason, Jordan Bell, Deion Waiters, and John Henson. Don't even ask me about J.R. Smith, who no longer makes an impact on the court. Thank you so much for watching this video. What other free agents would you like signed before the season? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe for more content, more good stuff coming soon. I love all of you. See you next time.